Thank you for tuning in to our Invest San Antonio launch conference. You're about to watch panel number 3, Forward Development, the infrastructure investments necessary for San Antonio's economic growth. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to see everyone's still here and the mic's on. Most of you are still awake, which is good to see. So we're going to start our panel today talking about infrastructure. So what we're going to do is I'm asking each panelist as we go down the line to do a quick additional self-intro so you know who they are, but talk a little bit about what they do in their day job as we get into the questions. But to start off, my name is Rob Killen. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Killen Griffin Farrimond, and our areas of practice are land use and economic development. So we're talking about infrastructure today. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. What we do professionally at our firm, a big chunk of our practice, is helping folks, clients, figure out how to get infrastructure to their projects and how to finance, pay for public infrastructure within their projects. That's a big part of what we do professionally. And then two organizations I'm very involved with, North San Antonio Chamber of Commerce and the Real Estate Council of San Antonio, are both huge advocates for investment in public infrastructure throughout the region. So this is something that I deal with each and every day. So I'm glad to have such a distinguished set of panelists here with us this morning. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go down the line. We're going to start with Jeff with the first question. We're going to go down first. Jeff, you're going to introduce yourself and then answer the question. Okay, and this question is for all of you. With a booming population, infrastructure planning in Texas will have to keep pace. Austin and San Antonio are expected to have over 8 million people by 2050. What do you make of the region's current trajectory, and do you see the investments that are being made today supporting the projected population growth?
Self-introduction first. Jeffrey Arndt, President and CEO of VIA. I started my career, just so everyone knows, as a traffic engineer and a highway engineer, so I do have a little bit outside of the public transportation sector. If you want to know what I do, well, I don't do it by myself, clearly. I have 2,200 people who help connect people to jobs, who help connect people to medical treatment so that they can live productive and increasingly productive lives. So I was giving thought to San Antonio, and first of all, Robert, I think I'd like to sign up to be a hygienist too. Sounds like a good gig. I was thinking about, San Antonio has this, it's a confluence of geography, of the business environment, and quality of life that makes us special, right? So our geography, I'm going to speak from a broader perspective than just VIA. Our geography puts us I think in terms that we are really the nexus of two different geometric areas. So we all talk about the triangle, right? Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. We're down here in the corner. But then I also think there is a quadrilateral, which we'll call the diamond because it's a more accessible term, which is San Antonio, Laredo, Monterey, Corpus Christi. We are the common point between those two sectors, and they are huge economic development sectors. From a more microscopic perspective, I think a lot of what has driven well, first of all, I almost hate to do these kinds of discussions because when I moved here 12 years ago and discovered that the greatest mistake in my life was not moving to San Antonio earlier, I was also concerned that too many people find that out and that the character of the city changes. That will be the challenge that we face as we grow, to maintain our identity and that which is special about San Antonio while still growing. But on a more microscopic perspective, our city has continued to grow outward, and we are in a geographic position, again, where we can just continue to grow outward. We're kind of like Houston in that way, although they are ultimately bound to the south and the southeast. And so from my business perspective, that environment has created centralization of functions and less density, and people moving into less dense areas where traditional public transportation simply doesn't work, right? And so it's forced us to really rethink, all right, in an area like Stone Oak or a more suburban area, how can we provide mobility to people? Because that's really what we're trying to do, is help provide mobility and get people to and from those important functions of life. How can we do that but not use the same old tool that we've had in our toolbox since before World War II, right? Buses. And so one of the things that VIA has really innovated in and really focused on is what's generally known as micromobility, what's locally known as VIA Link, where in sectors of the town we run essentially an Uber-like service that operates just like Uber with an app, and you get the information on the driver. It costs you $1.30 no matter where you go, because we treat it as a bus fare. You book your trip. The driver's usually there within 10 minutes within the sector and get you where you need to go, as opposed to you standing on a street corner waiting for an hour for the bus, and then it may not take you where you need to go. So those are the things that kind of influence what we've had to do to reflect kind of the changes in the demographics and the geography of our region.
Thank you. I appreciate you noting the much larger region that we talk about. Same question, and with a self-intro, of course.
Thank you. My name is John Beckham. I'm the Managing Director of the North American Development Bank. We're a very small binational institution owned by the United States and Mexico, based here in San Antonio. We invest in infrastructure all throughout the U.S. and Mexican side of the border. I think what I hope to contribute today is sort of a regional perspective, because our main focus is on the quadrilateral or diamond that Jeff just alluded to, that I think is important, because that's why we're in San Antonio. The bank was founded 30 years ago as part of the North American Free Trade Agreement, now the USMCA, because both the United States and Mexico realized that for the trade agreement and the relationship in general to function well, it needed infrastructure to take care of its environmental well-being. There's a lot of water challenges, sanitation challenges, transportation challenges that continue. And San Antonio is at that hub, and I think it's benefited tremendously. Despite the headlines about what we hear going on the border region, it is actually overall a success story. The economic, demographic, social, cultural dynamism in Texas, in northern Mexico, is really attributable to that interchange of commerce, people, and culture. So we want to invest in the infrastructure needed to do that. And where we try to do that is, again, basic things like water, potable water, clean water, but increasingly we need to, because of the scarcity of water, due to erratic climate, we got to invest in water conservation, water reuse, and stormwater management. That requires clean energy. Texas, I grew up watching Dallas and J.R. Ewing and his family, so I know all about Texas being oil and gas, but it's also renewable energy. And it's an abundant resource throughout Texas and the border region. And Texas is now one of the largest, if not the largest, producer of clean energy in the country. The other area where we want to do is a green economy. This boom that we see in nearshoring, friendshoring, that we've been talking about earlier today, can be done more sustainably. Cleaner buildings, cleaner uses of energy, better use of energy, more efficient use of water, more efficient and cleaner transportation. So those are the kinds of things we're doing. I think there's a lot of interest from the private sector and municipalities and state officials that we need to do this. Texas already we all approved $1 billion. That's an important step in the direction, but the Texas Water Development Board says that could be $80 billion, and that's $2020. So the challenge is serious. The dollars can be intimidating, but I think with creativity and some commitment, we can, and some thought, we can work through that, and that's the role that the bank tries to play.
No infrastructure without money, right?
No.
Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself, and same question.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Tim O'Crowley, Deputy Director at San Antonio Airport, sixth generation San Antonian. What do I do today, day to day? I get to be part of a really good team that is really hosts and operates a large economic generator for the region. I'll talk some more about the region. But really, it's our ability to represent the city and the region. You know, we're the first thing you see and first thing you see when you leave and come to the airport. And we have to do that, and our team who's here, part of our team, does that by delivering exceptional customer service. And that's more than just, a postcard or something that we say. Because without that, we support many other industries within the region, within San Antonio, and as an economic generator, it's really important. So to the question, we're seeing a lot of pressure and growth as people move into South Texas. We want to be the airport of choice. We are the airport of choice. We're seeing that in our parking. COVID really changed the airport industry, from the airlines, our stakeholders, to how airports operate. we were in the middle of a master plan while doing that, and that was good and bad. Gave us the opportunity to kind of pause and look at the way the future was going to grow, but we didn't know how it was going to grow. It kind of took all those forecasting models and threw them out the window. So we're having to react to that, but because of the strong demand that we have to put that infrastructure in place for the current demands and what we see in the future. And there's limiting factors in the industry, pilot shortages, plane shortages, but we're going to have to continue to grow and put that in place, because the terminal building we're building right now is double the space that we have with the other 2 terminals. It's a 4-year project. And so you have to get ahead of those, and we can talk more about that with some of the technology, but it's taking that and looking at those forecasts and how do we support the other businesses in the region as our role as an airport.
Thank you, Tim. Burton, tell us a little bit about what you do at Joeris, and then same question.
I would love to. Frankly, I forgot what the question was. I've been enthralled learning about these gentlemen. I forgot exactly what you want me to answer.
What do you see? Do you see the investment that we're making as sufficient? What do you think about the trajectory of growth?
Okay. My name is Burton Hackney. I get to serve as president of Joeris General Contractors. Joeris is coming up on a 60-year-old family-run business that's based here in San Antonio. We operate across the state now. We get to operate across the Golden Triangle, from Dallas to Houston to Austin to San Antonio, Laredo. We're doing significant work, but so we get to touch all parts of the state of the growth that's happening across. I just get to be very privileged to be here, right? I mean, from bankers to planners, I just get to represent the built environment in some way and speak to the challenges and opportunities we have there. So that's part of, we see a tremendous amount of investment, not only coming from the public side, but the private side. And the real challenge for us regionally and across the state is going to be how do we put that work into place? There are some tremendous pressures that we're seeing within the industry right now. We've had as much tailwind as opportunity as we've ever seen. I'm 30 years in the business and a 5th-generation Texan, not quite 6, but I've seen how we've changed. And so those opportunities are tremendous, but the pressures and the headwinds that we're seeing there are equally. So we don't get to manage the investment. We get to help come serve the clients and communities where we go serve there. So I can talk more about that as we go forward.
No, that's great. Thanks, Burton. And I think we should probably call this panel Thinking Beyond the Triangle, right? Yeah. This region is much bigger than just the triangle. So the next question is for all 4 of you, but we're going to start with Burton. We're going to move this way this time. From aviation and transit to financing and construction, each of your organizations play an integral role in the ongoing development, reshaping San Antonio and the region. What has prompted the growth we see today, and how have you navigated the challenges that have been brought about by the current economic environment?
So, I don't know if everybody knows this, but now Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world, which is pretty stunning. We get asked pretty frequently, said, do we want to work anywhere outside of Texas? I said, we're pretty content. We think we have enough in Texas. It's going to keep us busy for the foreseeable future. So that's tremendous opportunity. We see people continuing to come, as you do, all across the state from all different places, because Texas is a place that is desired now not only personally to live in from a quality of life and education, but from a place that really is a business-friendly environment. And I mean, places like San Antonio and Austin and Dallas and Houston, all of those, but particularly in San Antonio as well, in Central Texas, is an environment where people come and it's a refreshing place to do business. There is this collaborative, can-do, we're going to find a way to yes attitude that has brought people here and businesses here, corporate relocations here, and that has spurred tremendous investment. And so I think we're at the front end of it, and people keep saying, how long is it going to last? I said, I think it's going to last, it's not going to stop. I think this is the new normal for us. I think that we are a place that is magnetic when it comes to the business environment. As long as we can continue to support it and have realistic aspirations around what it's going to take to continue to put all the work in place from all the opportunity that's continuing to come. And that's really the discussion that we're going to have continue to go into the future on workforce development and how we're going to help businesses be able to sustain the growth. There are real challenges out there, but there are also tremendous opportunities.
Burton, love the enthusiasm. I'm going to put you in a chamber ad. Tim?
Yeah, for all the same reasons that Bert talked about. It's in our industry, it's people moving here, it's businesses here, our traditional markets of tourism and military. It's all of that. It's the growth that we're seeing just in the airline industry, and people wanting to travel. Business travel is still down, so it's kind of scary when that's going to come back, and what it's going to do to the market. But really the key for us to address those challenges is to be very strategic and proactive at the same time. We have limited resources, capital programs are long to build, take a long time to build, and we have to work with our stakeholders, the airline industry and all of those other stakeholders that we work with in the region. So a lot of what we have to do to overcome those challenges is look ahead and make sure that we make the right decisions, the right investment. There's been unprecedented grant money that's been put into the aviation industry. And so how do we take advantage of that? What do we make sure that we're building from a capital standpoint will serve us in the future? Because that won't continue, forever. And, and how do we make sure that the investment that we're doing today, that we're planning for, serves and matches the needs of the rest of the community as we continue to grow? It's right, like we have a great partnership with VIA. How do we continue those so as we build, we're not looking back and going, God, I wish we would have done that better. And so it's really collaboration and strategic planning.
Thanks, Tim. So many great announcements coming out of the airport. Every time you take the mic, I keep expecting you to announce something big, exclusive for the group. We'll keep it in the room. John, same question.
Thank you. As a heavy user of the airport, I'm really pleased to hear about those investment plans and can't wait to see them come through. But I think that touches the point is in my 3 years at the bank, I've experienced a lot of mobility, whether we drive down to the border or whether we're flying to someplace. And I think at the bank, we see that we need to innovate the transportation and the mobility challenges in addition to invest in them. And what does that really mean is you can only build so many bridges, and Laredo is the largest port of entry in the United States at the bottom end of our quadrilateral. If we include the Rio Grande Valley, it's by far the largest port of entry, and the truck and the waiting times, the commercial private passenger vehicle wait times there, and they're all coming into the other parts of the triangle, whether it's Houston, Corpus Christi, San Antonio, Austin, is a huge challenge for the environment in the air quality, but it's also a huge impact on the quality of life. I hate driving. I call it the time tax. People get stuck on the road, or the infrastructure's just not keeping up with the volumes. So we have to think differently about how we move people and transport them. Some of that's technology, some of that might be public transportation. So that's where the bank is trying to lead some thought in doing things a little differently so our dollars can stretch further.
John, thank you so much. Thanks for highlighting the importance of port of entry. You mentioned public transportation. Jeff, you know a little bit about that. I think it's a perfect softball lineup.
I was going to offer this gentleman a job. Well, first of all, with infrastructure, I think everything you've heard is this is going to take 5 years. This is going to take 7 years. And in the meantime, the growth keeps going. And we are I'm going to go back to the analogy that Robert used earlier. As a community, we have to think less like, oh, I'm pre-diabetic. Oh, I'm not going to go to the doctor and find out whether we have to think ahead, because by the time we're fixing the problems, like take 35, 35 is congested, and now we're going to shut part of it down so we can rebuild it. And then we're told that it will always be under construction, right? So we have to think ahead. The reason I say that is because I thought ahead this very day, and I answered the question you asked second first. What do you think about that? So I'm going to take a moment to talk about public transportation.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Rob. First of all, I want you all to know that VIA Metropolitan Transit was voted by Texas Transit Association as the #1 MTA in the state of Texas. And we're very proud of that. Thank you. I have a trustee, Paul Basildua, in the back. Paul? We have a great board. We have a tremendous board. And I'd also like to tell you something that I call it an urban myth. So, Tim, I think you've had record use at the record number of passengers served at the airport last year. And how many was that? About 11 million. And we last year served 24 million. And so we served about double what the airport. In our record year, we served 36 million.
think
which
he's
was
one up in you.
pre-COVID, clearly. So when next time you hear the buses are empty, think about the airport. Do you think that's empty? Because we're carrying twice of what that's carrying. I just have to put that out there, right? So the project we're investing in is ART, Advanced Rapid Transit, or more commonly known as BRT, Bus Rapid Transit. And it begins at the airport because we knew how important it was to serve the airport. And the first line, which we call the Green Line, then continues down San Pedro through downtown and into Southtown. It will bring the two lines, the Silver Line, which is the east-west line, the Green Line, will bring over $400 million worth of federal dollars for our transportation infrastructure. Now, the largest grant VIA has gotten in its history, I believe, is about $25 million, and now we're in line for a $400 million grant. But that's because we are so far behind. If you think of the transit system as a roadway system, for the last 45 years, we've only had local streets. So just imagine what it would be like getting around San Antonio if all there was local streets, if the freeways completely disappeared. The ART operates and its rapid transit takes us up a notch. So we're putting in what might be considered somewhat the highways of public transportation as part of an overall network that will go with the primo routes and the local routes to connect all the major activity centers, all the major employment centers. So the first line obviously connects the airport and that region, which is I think the second largest employment center in our region, through downtown. The third, there's a connection then over on the primo route to the medical center, which is the first. One of the advantages, one of the benefits of that investment, though, is the economic development, especially infill development, because much of what we see is going, out. Infill development through transit-oriented development associated with the high-quality public transportation opportunity. That's on the city level. On the personal level, on the person level, I just have to share with you. We have so many stories, but I'll just share with you the story of a young lady who lived on the west side. She went to Young Women's Leadership Academy. She is now going to MIT. So pretty good start to a great career. But she said, if it had not been for VIA, I could never have gone to the Young Women's Leadership Academy because I couldn't have gotten there. When we interviewed her and went to the administrator, 35% of the young women who go there rely upon VIA to get them there. So we're making differences in the city's economy, and we're also making vast differences in people's lives.
Well, that's great. And I think y'all do a good job at VIA of highlighting individual success stories, people who benefit from having that access to public transportation. So the next questions are going to be individualized for each of you. And unfortunately, Jeff, we're going with you first as we go down the line. Because you already answered the question I'm about to ask you. So full disclosure, my wife served on the VIA board a few years ago. I've got friends like Paul who currently serve on the board. So I'm a big fan of what y'all are doing over there right now. But here's the question that, again, you've already answered, but you're going to get a few minutes to weigh in and get some more of this. Cities in the United States are looking for ways to improve connectivity, and San Antonio is no different. How do you envision the Green Line linking neighborhoods to key regional activity centers, and what are some of the benefits from this project that could pay major dividends for the community?
I will say frequency, faster, further. So the key to transportation, public transportation, is frequency. And just think about this. If you were thinking about taking a bus to work and it was running once an hour, how likely would you want to do that? If you got off work and found out, it's another 45 minutes until the bus will finally get here. If it was running every 5 minutes, you'd have a completely different perspective. And so the ART system is based upon a 10-minute frequency, which research says is the point where you and I wouldn't bother looking for a schedule. We just go out and wait for the next trip. The faster and farther is that we're going to have dedicated lanes over a large portion of that project with special stations. So if you think about a light rail line, because I hear discussion about light rail line, it would look a lot like a light rail line, but it's rubber tired. Someone often asks, well, why isn't it light rail? And I'll tell you why. Light rail is far less flexible. I did operate light rail in Houston, the first line. I can tell you that if something happens, if a tree falls across that line, that rail is dead in the water. it's stuck. We would have to take buses out and go around it, those kinds of things. If something happened on the dedicated lane, these rubber tire vehicles are able to get around it just like a car. So it's a lot more flexible. The second thing is when we get to the end of the initial investment, which would on the Southtown is just south of Southtown, in a rubber tire vehicle, we can then just get into the regular traffic and we can continue as we plan to every other trip down to Brooks. And so we have that flexibility. With the rail, we couldn't do that. You'd have to get off and get on another vehicle. So light rail is less flexible than ART, but it costs twice as much. And so I would say, why would you want to spend twice as much for a lesser product? Only because there is this image of light rail, but I think really it's the service that you deliver that matters. And so the same way that light rail engenders, as I was talking about before, transit-oriented development because of its permanence, ART likewise will afford us that opportunity especially at specific nodes. And the city, of course, is responsible for all the land use planning and zoning. So we are working with the city, with the Housing Commission, with a number of other entities to assist them in developing code that would encourage some different levels of densification around specific stations. So I don't want to suggest that when you build a system down San Pedro that all of a sudden you're going to have these towering skyscrapers, nor do I want to suggest that you're going to have a long line of public housing. It's going to be a diversity of products out there, housing, office, retail, et cetera, that will be a renaissance, frankly, of what's happening in that corridor.
Thank you, Jeff. John, I see some of the people have started to pick up their invest books and start flipping through that. And I know in your interview, in your quote in Invest, you talked about some of these things, but there's more going on in the border region than what people read in the headlines. Water issues, geopolitical realignment of supply chains, improved transportation systems. Where does the North American Development Bank factor into the equation to make sure the right amount of money gets to the right projects?
Well, our goal is that the right amount of projects, money gets to the right projects, and that's what we work hard to do. And the first order of business is to figure out what is the environmental improvement we're trying to address. Because we want to make sure that the well-being of our communities, for their health, their well-being, their quality of life, is attended to. And that is really starts with clean water and clean air. So those are the main criteria we look at when we try to do a project. So that can be as straightforward, if you will. It's certainly not easy, is water sanitation. And all our water sanitation systems throughout the border region are challenged through the demographic and economic growth that they've had. And a particular challenge along the border region is the environment doesn't respect any border. It's going to go and it's going to flow as nature designed it to do. So we have to, the bank was established, we work hard to have collaborative solutions for common problems. And I think we have a very good record of doing that. We could say, oh, there's still problems with the environment, there's still water, there's still air. But if we think about where the border was 30 years ago in terms of connectivity and access to water, in addition to what the population was, and where we are today, it is a big success story. So that collaboration does work, and we need to build it because we want to face the new challenges of water scarcity. Another example would be this whole geopolitical realignment of supply chains, which is a huge motor of economic growth for both Mexico and the United States. That rubber hits the road in the border region. And if we can build a more sustainable, greener economy and greener infrastructure, that becomes more sustainable for our children. And what does that really look like? That looks like greener buildings, water reuse, less energy use, and less waste produced or recycling of other materials. So those are the kinds of projects that we're investing in. Particularly in the Texas-Mexico border, we've invested in new ports of entry. It's an existing bridge, but now we're going to put more traffic because there's going to be a northbound port of entry there. We're investing an enormous project of $80 million to help Nuevo Laredo address its wastewater discharges because they've had a boom in population and frankly, they've also neglected some of the maintenance. So we're going to invest some large amounts of money there to tend a common water source for both sides is the Rio Grande. So those are just two examples of how we try to think through those problems.
Those are both really great examples. Tim, the airport affects all of us, whether we travel for business or pleasure. We all need the airport. So next month, you're about to start the first nonstop flight to Europe, going to Germany. Between this latest milestone and what you're doing with the new terminal, how these developments reflect San Antonio's projected future demand? In other words, are you prepared for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have a saying in the airport, a mile of road gets you a mile down the road. A mile of runway gets you anywhere. And that's really evident with Condor. How many people bought tickets on Condor already to go to Germany this summer?
Me.
All right.
Woohoo! I'll go with you.
Well, hopefully we'll get some more. It's really important to support that. In the airport, it's not only attracting service, but it's retaining service, and it's really important. But what that does, that's the second part. We've been talking about regional impact, but as an airport, we fly into Mexico and all over the United States. Now it's a global impact. What will that bring to San Antonio, the region, going back and forth into Central Europe and Germany? How does that keep expanding? And so, as we go out and we invest, and the city invests with all of our stakeholders in the city to get these routes, it's more than just the flight. It's what else is that bringing to continue the growth. So, as an airport, how do we make sure that we can have the right runways, to accommodate that growth? That's always been one of the questions. Are the runways long enough? The answer is yes. Are we in the right place to keep that airport for the next 60, 70 years? The answer, the master plan definitively answered that yes. So we keep investing in this facility. It's a convenient facility. It's great for San Antonio. That's what we hear all the time. You can be in San Antonio downtown at a convention, get to the airport quickly. We'll continue to add amenities and features that enhance the customer experience. But a lot of that starts with the capital investment and making sure that we do that right to support, again, just kind of now the global aspect into Europe. So we're very excited about the flight, and I really do encourage you to get on and see what Condor offers. That's an excellent airline, and now it's San Antonio, one stop to a lot of places, Rome, Maldives, all through Frankfurt. So
Great, thank you. Very, very excited about the future and the opportunity to go to, went to Europe last summer and had to go through three airports to get to Rome. Burton, as we start to wrap up the program, because lunch is not provided, so we're going to have to get out of here. Question for you. First of all, you alluded to Joeris's long history of involvement. You've got great leadership. I've known Gary for years. I see Melody Thompson somewhere around here. Melody, thank you. Lots of great projects, and you've been very supportive of community organizations like North Chamber and Real Estate Council, so appreciate everything that Joeris does in the community. The question for you is, with so much development underway, transforming places across San Antonio and South Central Texas, how do you see those changes reflected in the opportunities presented to the residents in the region today?
Yeah, that's a great question, but I just first want to say that my son-in-law and my daughter just are going to be in Germany, just got stationed there for the military for 3 years, so we're really excited that there's a direct flight to Germany. It's going to make it a lot easier for us to get there. Those are huge things, yeah. All right, there you go. Just got to figure out how to get some frequent flyer miles there. So I'm like I said, I'm a fifth generation Texan. I have grown up in Central Texas. I've seen the changes. I remember driving back and forth from San Antonio to Austin and going from San Antonio to New Braunfels to San Marcos, and there was just nothing in between those places until you got there, right? And now commuting back and forth up and down I-35, it's just nonstop, and it's getting more dense. And so I think to answer your question, what we're seeing is not only from the public investment, from the private investment, from businesses to infrastructure, it's just opportunities for communities. So for people that are not connected to major hubs, I mean, we have people that, there were some hands in here that people that say don't live in San Antonio, but they work in San Antonio because they're in New Braunfels, they're in the Canyon Lake area, they're outside, they may be south. And so for them to be able to have all of the qualities of life, whether it be healthcare or retail or education that comes closer to them, those are the opportunities that we're seeing in the region. And so again, it becomes self-sustaining to some respect, right? We don't want everybody having to commute in all the time. It would be nice, but when they can and have the opportunity there, we don't want that to be a detriment, but we're seeing that all through the places. And so what we really would like to see, though, is to have a generation that's coming up and see opportunities for them to be able to get into the opportunities that the infrastructure and all the development, the built environment presents. I got to stay in my lane here because I can't talk about banking or infrastructure, all those, but I can't talk about what we know. And there are more opportunities now that there ever have been to come into and have really good careers in the built environment, whether it be in the trades, right, or in construction or in the management side of it. We have kind of a gap that we've seen in this generation from, I would say, mid-30s and mid-40s, where there just weren't a lot of people coming in, and so we've kind of got a gap there, but we're seeing a lot coming out now through the colleges that are interested in getting into construction, especially in construction management, which is great, but our trades really are still struggling, and as we have more massive capital projects come into Texas, right? And they are interconnected, right? With the things that are happening in Austin affect the things in San Antonio. When you have a project that's taking $10 or $12 billion at Samsung in Austin, it pulls resources regionally, and it has an effect from electricians to plumbers. And so these are the things that we really need to be thinking about, because all of this talk and all of this growth and the vision for investing, the vision for having infrastructure and buildings and things that people need really are going to be challenged by the people that actually have to build them. And so hopefully there's a long-term commitment. You know, we're great. We get to, we're going to be working with Dr. Garza in Palo Alto on their new project, which is going to really help transform the community down there. But to be pouring back into places like that are also thinking about, all right, who are we developing that's going to help the region develop? And so those are the opportunities that we see that are really affecting communities.
Thanks, Burton. So we're going to wrap up. Each get 10 seconds to answer this. And just real quick, thoughts for the future in terms of infrastructure investment. 10 seconds, Jeff. See, he can't do it. He's still clearing his throat.
I would encourage you to have the state really focus in on the opportunities to connect these various cities in ways in addition to traditional highways.
Thanks, Jeff. John?
I think San Antonio is at that hub of the geometry that Jeff described. And Mayor Nirenberg said San Antonio is a place where Mexico and the United States come together to talk, meet, and discuss what opportunities, challenges they face. And I think that provides a unique and very exciting opportunity for everybody in this room.
Tim?
When we finally release the renderings of the new terminal, I think you'll be very proud of how we've captured the experience of San Antonio.
Burton?
I would just say perspective. I mean, there are a lot of people around the world that would love to be in our position of challenging growth and opportunity. It really is that we get to do this. We get to live in a place that is attracting people and opportunity, and that's just it. Just have the healthy perspective.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. You've been a great panel.